Today in the episode, is 90 billion euro loan to Ukraine accepted by Europe, and it makes Putin even more mad than he was. Formula of Russian peace. Russia is Putin and Putin is war. Russia continues war, spitting on all Trump's efforts. Trump approves an $800 million budget for Ukraine over the next 2 years, while simultaneously exempting Russian businesses from sanctions. So why support Ukraine and the aggressor at the same time? The decision of the EU to issue a 90 billion euro loan to Ukraine has become a precedent in international law, and because it is a precedent and it is about the law, it has made Putin mad. This time, his madness is grounded. It gave hope for the punishment of Russia for all of its heinous crimes in Ukraine. The European Council has officially approved a 90 billion euro loan for Ukraine for the next 2 years, backed by the EU budget. The most important moment, Ukraine will have to return the loan only when Russia pays reparations. The announcement came from European Council President Antonio Costa following a high-level summit of EU leaders in Brussels. Costa emphasized that this financial support is a critical step towards securing Ukraine's defense and paving the way for a lasting peace.
We will provide a loan backed by the European Union budget. This will address the urgent financial needs of Ukraine, and Ukraine will only repay this loan once Russia pays reparations. The Union reserves its right to make use of the immobilized asset to repay this loan.
The 90 billion euro loan for Ukraine, backed as a collateral by future Russian reparations, approved by the EU, is a chance to make Putin pay for this bloody war. Now the EU shows its strong will for it. Moreover, shows unity, and even moreover so, unity and strength to oppose the other valuable Russian assets, Viktor Orban, Robert Fico, and others of a kind. The European Council has found a solution to bypass countries, or better said, countries' authorities, which were against it and stand in favor of Russia. Hungary, Czech, and Slovak republics won't participate in this loan in any way, so having no expenses related to it whatsoever. Other than Putin's discontent.
This is significant support that truly strengthens our resilience. It is crucial that Russian assets remain immobilized, and that Ukraine has secured a financial safety net for the years ahead. I am grateful for this result and for our unity. Together, we are defending the future of our continent. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine.
We hear voices saying, "Oh, not again. Those Ukrainian getting 90 billion euro for what?" The fact is the money the EU has approved for Ukraine is a drop in the ocean of what Ukraine really needs and deserves. The official statistics from the Office of the President of Ukraine, and not only this source, indicate that Ukraine has suffered losses mounting over $1 trillion since 2014, when Russia invaded Ukraine for the first time and annexed Crimea. And since the other round of aggression, Putin's full-scale invasion in February 2022, the losses have already reached $600 billion and counting. Destroyed buildings can be rebuilt, but what about people's lives? What about those who gave their lives for Ukrainian freedom, or those who were murdered by a Russian rocket while peacefully sleeping in their own beds, or those 3,120 children who were, according to UNICEF data, murdered by Russia through the course of these terrible 4 years? That means 2 children a day. That means, as you are watching this, Russia will murder 2 more children today. How much you think their lives cost within these 90 billion euro? Whatever is happening in terms of peace negotiations, Russia does not really care about all that. Here is a peace formula for you. Russia is Putin and Putin is war. As simple that. No place for peace. In the last 24 hours on the front, 193 combat engagements were recorded, according to the morning briefing from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. According to the General Staff, yesterday the enemy carried out 74 airstrikes, dropped 154 glide air bombs, conducted 4,281 shellings, including 126 from rocket artillery systems, and engaged 5,836 kamikaze drones. The highest activity of hostilities was recorded on the Pokrovsk direction. Ukrainian defenders stopped 50 enemy assault attempts. Intense fighting also continues on the Kostiantynivka direction, where the enemy carried out 28 attacks in a day. On the Oleksandrivka direction yesterday, the Russian forces carried out 22 attacks, and on the Gulyai-Pole direction, 19 more. Hostilities also continue on the North Slobozhansky and Kursk, Kupiansk, Lyman, Sloviansk, and other directions. The front remains dynamic. Data are summarized daily, and Ukrainian defenders continue to hold the line and destroy the enemy's infrastructure. If walking in Putin's shoes, I can understand why he does not want peace and is craving war. Because today he is a great dictator, a unifier of a Russian nation, a conqueror of land, and a great Führer, and without a war, he is just another someone who made a deal with Trump. However, the war is a game for two, and Ukrainian armed forces deliver the concrete hard proof of that, bringing the war back to where it belongs and started, deep into Russia.
Mom, the thermal power plant has been blown up.
Ukrainian missiles attacked the Oryol city power grid at night. Heat and power outages are alike those in Ukraine. Also, a part of Rostov sits without power due to the attack. Sounds of a jet engine were heard before the explosions, indicating an attack by missiles or jet-powered drones. That is according to the Russian reports. Wow, sounds copy-paste to Ukrainian messages. The governor of Oryol Oblast claimed that air defense forces destroyed enemy UAVs and debris damaged several private houses and another buildings. However, strangely, the published videos contain no sounds of air raid sirens in the city or the operation of Russian air defense systems, if there were any operating. The Oryol thermal power plant was previously attacked on the night of 31st October. According to the Ukrainian Navy, the facility was struck with Neptune cruise missiles at that time. The strike hit an open switchgear facility, causing massive power outages in the city. Another city of Tolyatti, a plant called Tolyatti Azot, one of Russia's largest chemical plants and fertilizer producers, making it a key industrial asset for the country's war economy. Its main products include ammonia, urea, methanol, and other nitrogen-based chemicals. U.S. President Donald Trump has signed the defense budget law for next year. According to the White House press service, the president signed the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2026, which authorizes appropriations for the next fiscal year. The $901 billion in U.S. defense spending is $8 billion more than President Donald Trump's request submitted earlier this year. On December 17th, the U.S. Senate approved the massive figure, almost $1 trillion worth defense policy bill for 2026. The document, in particular, includes a section that provides an additional $400 million in funding for Ukraine for 2026 and the same amount for 2027. And while signing the budget with almost $500 million saved for Ukraine in the course of 2 next years, Donald Trump exempts of sanctions Russian, and not only Russian, businesses, those caught contributing directly to Putin's war chest. Amongst these companies is the Cyprus company Velis International Limited and its owner, Russian citizen Dmitry Buganko. It is a subsidiary of an investment company located in Moscow. In addition, the U.S. has lifted sanctions imposed on Dubai-based named 365 Days Freight Services and Turkish Edisys, which previously exported sanctioned equipment to Russia, which was used in its military-industrial complex. Restrictions were also lifted on the Finnish company High-Tech Koneisto and its top manager, a Finnish citizen with Russian roots, Evgenia Drimova. They supplied optics and electronic and lab equipment to Russian sanctioned companies. The U.S. has not yet disclosed the reasons for this decision. In addition, it is not known whether Washington will change its policy towards Russian companies that were the final recipients of products from the above-mentioned intermediaries. The administration of the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, has also suspended sanctions against a number of Russian banks. The ministry has issued a general license, that allows for transactions of Russian financial institutions. This is where we decided to ask you, our dear audience, what is going on, you think, as we are struggling to understand. So, please add a comment in a comment section below, helping us to find the answer to a question. A business that contributes 10 times to Putin's war against Ukraine than what is written in the American budget for Ukraine. And all that is happening now, when obviously Russia's economy is barely breathing and sanctions should not be lifted, but rather doubled down. Learn why in more details in our story for you.
Most European politicians support a reparative loan for Ukraine using frozen Russian assets in the European Union. This was stated by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at a press conference in Brussels. He separately noted that there are leaders who support other aid tools for Kyiv, but the final decision, according to him, will be made by the end of 2025.
Ukraine has full right to this money because Russia is destroying us. For defense or reconstruction of Ukraine, it is absolutely fair to use. Legally, most specialists say that the clean and fair solution currently being considered regarding the future use of these assets, that is, in terms of values and legally, everything is correct here. One can fear certain legal steps from Russia, but it is not as scary as when Russia is at your border.
In addition to using Russia's frozen assets in the EU, bloc countries are also considering further strengthening sanctions pressure on Moscow. After all, the Kremlin's energy revenues are already rapidly declining. According to data announced by Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiga, profits from oil and gas sales in November 2025 collapsed by 34% compared to the same month last year. This is a loss of $3.5 billion for the Russian budget. The consequences are already felt. The Kremlin is raising taxes and cutting support for small and medium businesses. All this accelerates the fall of the Russian economy into recession.
The Russian budget is in deficit, and it is time to intensify sanctions pressure. Now there is a real opportunity to make the cost of continuing the war unbearable for the Kremlin. Data show that, despite the efforts of the Russian government to mitigate the impact of sanctions, Russia's economy is beginning to face some dramatic problems, entering recession. In January-November, Russia's federal budget deficit reached a record $54 billion, and by the end of the year, it may exceed $70 billion. Andriy Sybiha, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, on Telegram.
The European Union has imposed new restrictive measures on another 41 vessels that are part of Russia's shadow fleet. As reported on the European Council website, almost 600 tankers are already under EU sanctions. The United Kingdom has blocked 537 vessels, the USA 216. In parallel, Brussels continues work on the 20th sanctions package against Russia. According to analysts, the new measures may affect, among other things, refining plants.
The Commission is not rushing with the 20th sanctions package because the main focus now is on finding a solution for financing Ukraine in 2026 to 2027. Most likely, the draft of the new package will be ready already in January to approve it by the anniversary of Russia's full-scale aggression, anonymous European diplomats, in a comment to European Pravda. There are questions about the work of refining plants. These are the ones that process gold bars, dust into banking gold, jewelry gold. It is exported from Russia, unfortunately, through Armenia, through the United Arab Emirates. This channel needs to be stopped and subjected to sanctions pressure because gold is essentially Russia's opportunity to print dollars inside the country.
Washington is also preparing to strengthen sanctions pressure on Russia. As Bloomberg reports, new restrictive measures may target Russia's shadow fleet vessels and oil traders in case the Kremlin refuses the adjusted peace agreement from the USA, EU, and Ukraine. According to the agency, such White House plans were announced early this week by U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent at a meeting with a group of European ambassadors.
The U.S. is very good at waging trade wars even without sanctions. With India, for example, the effect is colossal. When the trade war with India peaked, the price of Russian Urals oil imports fell below $36 per barrel. That was unprecedented. Now we see that in November, they lost almost $2 billion in export revenue. This is according to the International Energy Agency, a fairly authoritative organization that, as a rule, gives very accurate estimates.
Today, prices for Russian oil have fallen to the lowest level since the beginning of the full-scale invasion in 2022. According to Bloomberg, Russian exporters on average received just over $40 per barrel of oil shipped from the Baltic and Black Seas, as well as from the port of Kuzmino, 28% less than the average over the last 3 months. Due to sanctions, India, the second largest buyer of Russian fuel, has begun reducing purchases. At the same time, China, the largest importer of Russian oil, is buying batches from eastern ports with record discounts. Reported by Nikita Skoblikov, UATV News.
That's it for today's News Digest. If these stories helped you see the bigger picture, hit subscribe so you don't miss what matters next. Share your thoughts in the comments. Stay informed, stay sharp. See you in the next update.